I'd like to welcome everybody today to a special episode of Lunch with Layne with my great friend and legal idol, Peg O'Connor. And Peg, thank you. There's a couple of disclaimers, which if you watch my other videos, Peg, I will get out of the way in about 30 seconds here.
Let's do it.
The interview, the opinions expressed today are not necessarily representative of the University of Florida Student Legal Services, the Board of Governors, the Board of Trustees, the Governor's Office, or the state of Florida. Peg, I think that covers about everybody or its associated entities.
Spoken like
And
a true lawyer.
thank you. Thank you, Peg. And one more trigger warning I'm also giving. Some of the information that we may be discussing today could be controversial, provocative. And we're going to get into some critical questions here. No one is required to attend or to view this particular video. If you feel offended in any way, certainly let us know if you can, but you are not required to continue viewing this video. That being the case, Peg, I'd like to welcome you again to Lunch with Layne. Thank you so much for joining us. And you're joining us from the confines of your office. And
Yes.
I know I am in awe, absolutely in awe. Peg, and I'm in awe of you, for a few reasons. We'll get into your background, but amongst other things, I do want to talk about this. I do want to applaud you for this. You were given the Florida Bar President's Pro Bono Service Award, which very few attorneys attain. And I think, was it every year, only 21 attorneys, I believe, are bestowed?
Correct.
Is that
Yeah, one
approximately?
from each circuit plus a statewide.
Thank you, Peg. We strongly believe in community service. We're encouraging our students to do it. I can't thank you enough for the service that you provided to this community. The other reason I wanted to have you on is you love the law. It is so much fun getting in touch with you and your law firm, which certainly I want to mention Turner, O'Connor, and Kozlowski, right? With legal stylings of Caleb Kenyon, is that right? As well, right there. You have a wonderful group there, Larry, Ron, Caleb, to work with. It's so much fun talking to you. People say the law can't be fun. Every time we talk, I have a great time talking about the law. And I think that's how passionate you are about it. I want to get started. You were born in Queens, New York. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Born and
Yeah.
raised.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I was going to mention some of your other colleagues as well from Queens. I'm sure you know them personally. Paul Simon, Julie Chen, Tony Bennett, Al Roker, Howard Stern. Some wonderful. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we'll leave it without.
Started out good, and now you're going a little bit downhill because
Okay.
at some point you're going to say Bernie Madoff and Donald Trump.
Oh, you got me there, Fran Drescher. Yeah, and a certain governor that we won't get into right now, right? As well. Well, yeah, absolutely. No judgment at all here. But that's where you were born. I was wondering, can you tell us a little bit about your law firm and your practice areas?
Sure. We do, it's changed over the past few years. Most people know us for criminal defense, that we help anybody who's been accused of committing a crime or any sort of wrongdoing, whether it's state or federal. But in the past few years, we branched out to do a lot of healthcare law. And we do student conduct cases. I think what may be of interest to the audience is we do tenure defense and professional licensing defense, which means anybody who has a professional license, whether it's a doctor, judge, lawyer, architect, physical therapist, plumber, real estate agent, if you have a license in Florida, you have a disciplinary agency, your board. And when they come after you for some alleged wrongdoing or some complaint of a client, that's when we step in to help you defend yourself through that process. If you've been denied tenure, or if you are a faculty member or staff member who's been disciplined, we can help you there too. And we do a lot of student conduct.
Great. I can't wait, Peg. Yeah.
Great. When you get in trouble, you come see me.
Absolutely, positively. And you were getting into, as well as students, right, for the student conduct code, the honor code.
Yep.
Is that right? If they get in trouble with that, you can assist as well, right,
Yeah,
with that process.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you. I know that is a very small coterie of attorneys in town that actually have that experience. So
It is. It's kind of a niche practice area.
it really is. Yeah. Thank you for sharing those practice areas. Do you have a favorite amongst all those things?
A favorite thing, a favorite
Yeah.
area. I really do like all of it. I know that sounds like a stereotypical answer. My first love was criminal stuff because that was my undergrad at UF was a criminology degree. And I got a master's in sociology because I was at UF before they started a graduate program in crim. So that's always been my passion. But I think any defense work is what I like to do, because when you're accused of any wrongdoing in the society, there's usually a lynch mob that's after you and everybody presumes you've done something wrong. And what I've always said, actually, I got this from Larry. What Larry always said is sometimes a good defense lawyer is the only thing that stands between the client and the lynch mob. You know, you get blasted in the newspaper, you get blasted on social media, you walk down the street, people are throwing stuff at you. Everybody presumes that you did it. And sometimes the lawyer is the one who has to step in between and say, this person is presumed innocent. He has a constitutional right to be presumed innocent. And I think it's hard for people to remember that. So I'm very proud of what I do, because criminal defense is a very noble piece of the law when it's done properly.
It's I'm glad that you mentioned that, Peg, and I'm glad that you are, on people's side. I feel like when somebody is accused, you are beaten down by everyone, potentially even your colleagues, right, will desert you. And the
Yeah.
fact that you have somebody, that's there, and that part of that, I guess, hate the sin, not the sinner, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's being able, yeah, people make mistakes sometimes in their lives too, right? And it's helping them, right, get back on their feet. I think that that's a wonderful philosophy. Your compassion, I do want to thank you. You've opened up my eyes on certain areas, and I really do appreciate that. I think made me a more compassionate person. You actually were segueing into my next question. Where did you go to law school? You had mentioned you got your bachelor's. Your master's, you were, what do we call it? Like a dual enrolled, right? I believe. I forgot what we call it. There's a concurrent
Joint.
degree, joint degree. Thank you. And you're the only person I think I know, Peg, that actually has that. You survived it.
I survived it. It was hard. What they do is after you
Yeah.
have a bachelor's, UF offered the option to combine a JD with different areas. You can get an MBA, a master's, a PhD. And what it does is it cuts off about a year for both degrees, because some courses will count for the other, for the other college. What I did was I went straight through law school, because there are certain points at which you have to try out for certain things. For example, when I went to law school, trial team was only second and third semester, and law review was only third semester, moot court was only third and fourth. And if you jumped back and forth between your master's program and law school, you weren't eligible. So I went all the way through and then did grad school. I felt very bad because when I graduated, I walked with my class because those were the people I knew. But this was back when they gave you paper diplomas in a big envelope. And they gave me an envelope, and I got back to my seat and opened it, and it was empty, because they won't give you your diploma until you graduated from both colleges. So I still had to go through the 2 years of the master's before I actually got the diploma, but at least they gave me an envelope so I could pretend that I had graduated with my class.
That's really, I experienced the exact same thing, Peg, but for a different reason. I had the empty envelope as well. I had not watched a video, I guess, on student loans that was required viewing when we graduated. Yes, believe it or not. So I had to go. They gave me my little diploma, once I sat down with 5 other individuals and watched that video, there.
5 other criminals.
Yeah, 5 other criminals, huge criminals, a violation of the student conduct code, I'm sure.
Yes.
Let me ask you, I think you kind of explained why you chose UF Law. You were kind of in-house. You're a triple gator then. 3 degrees, is that right? Wow. You may be the first triple gator I think I've met too. I'm sure I've met some others, some professors. How was your law school experience?
Wow. That's a question. How was my law school experience? Petrifying at first, because I remember the week before school started. Of course, this is back in the day. None of your young ones will remember having to go to the law school and look on the bulletin board for the assignments. But back in the old days, you had to go, and every professor had their assignments stapled in their books. And it was read 5 chapters of this and 200 pages of this, and blah, 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 blah. And you're there with a mob of other people who are staring at the board, and they're all, talking amongst themselves. And I was petrified. I thought, I can't do this. I didn't think I was going to go to college, first of all. That's not something I tell many people, but I barely graduated high school. I had a D average. I was miserable. I skipped class. I couldn't do it. And I never saw myself in the position I am today. I barely got out.
Was it is that okay? I do want to follow up on that. Was it motivation? Maybe the classes weren't motivating you, or was there a particular reason, in high school? Were you I was going to say a JD, but a different type of, juvenile delinquent, what were you going through a lot of hardship? Um,
Well, fortunately, I wasn't a delinquent. The only criminal record I have, I think, is a misdemeanor for having my car registration expired for more than 6 months because I never got the little sticker. I was just too lazy in undergrad. So if you look me up, you're going to see I have a misdemeanor from like
okay.
1990 or
Oh
91.
my gosh, yes,
Oh,
another criminal. Okay.
I know.
Weird.
I never
Yeah.
got that sealed or expunged. I have to work on that. I just wasn't happy in high school. It is one of those, it's a popularity contest. And my parents didn't have a lot of money, so we couldn't afford the Jordache jeans that were the thing back in the day, and
Yeah.
the right clothes and the right everything. So I just didn't feel like I fit in, and I'm sure a lot of people who are grown-ups can now look back and say that. But I didn't want to be there. I did not like the material. When I moved down from New York to Florida, I realized that Florida's school system is a couple years behind New York. So I wasn't challenged, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. So I just didn't go. And when I got home, I didn't want to do the homework. I just never envisioned myself being able to get out of high school. I thought that I was going to be a cab driver when I grew up, or a Greyhound bus driver, because I love driving and I grew up with taxis, and I thought that's a great career. Why not? But I had the presence of mind to know that I needed something. I needed a piece of paper because I didn't want to succeed in life. So I went to undergrad and then thought, what do I do from here? Everybody in my classes knew what they wanted to do. They wanted to be a lawyer, or they wanted to be a cop, or they wanted to do something. I wanted to do something that would enable me to financially take care of my parents, because my parents were older when I was born, and I knew someday I was going to be responsible for them. And I couldn't figure it out. I thought, what am I doing here? And then I took one class that changed my life. And that class is a course called Deviance. And it was taught by Professor Dick Hollinger in the sociology department. I got it because there were no other seats available in any other class. So I took it, and it changed my life, Layne. It was just fascinating. It taught me about why good people do bad things. So
Yes.
we learned about all sorts of theories of deviance, about labeling theory and bonding theory. And it just clicked with me and it made sense. And I thought, I love this class. So I switched my major to criminology because that was the path that seemed to just light me up. And that's where I found it. Then I took research methods and criminal theory and police practices, and my world just opened up. But I never thought I was smart enough to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to end up being a cop or something, FBI, something like that. Everybody around me, I'm going to law school, and I would lie in bed and say, do I even dare envision a sign that says Peggy Ann O'Connor, attorney at law? Could I do that? It took me a while to think about it. I will also confess that part of me just wasn't ready to graduate yet. And I thought, if I don't go to grad school, I'm going to have to get a job, and I don't want a job, and I don't want to lose my student discount. So I need to go to school. So I thought, let me just apply to UF Law School. Is the only school I applied to. And I got in. And that's my not glamorous story about how I ended up in law school.
Wow. Wow. Peg, I cannot thank you enough for sharing all of that. I'm learning so much. Peg, I thought I knew you. Best friends, everything besties.
Scratching the surface, Layne.
Scratching the turf. I know it's like an onion, right? We're just going layer by layer by layer. Yeah. The question, will we ever reach the center, Peg? No.
It's a perpetual onion, a perpetual onion.
Perpetual. Yeah, absolutely. That's what makes you so fascinating, I think. Clearly, you found your niche. Although I have no doubt whether or not you were a cab driver or a bus driver, type A personality that you are, you would be the best.
I would have been the best damn cabbie in New York City, baby.
Absolutely. Price's Law. Have you heard of Price's Law? Okay, yeah, and I think we said this on another real quick. I'll just describe it to you. I'm going to butcher it, but you take the square root of the number of workers in an organization. Okay, say you got 100, right? In your particular, group, and 10 of those would do 50% of the work. Peg, you are truly one of those 10 that you're probably one of the 3 or 4 that does 50% plus of the work. Okay, knowing what I know about your work ethic, and the quality of work, the time. The other thing I like about you and your law firm, Peg, is that you think outside the box. You really get to know your client
Yeah,
inside and out and everything because you and I know it's personalizing somebody. I was like you. I thought the same thing. I thought there were career criminals. I would watch the news at night and say, oh gosh, these people must have majored in, I don't want to say
yeah,
criminology, but, criminal acts or something. And, later on, I learned some of this was compassion from you, but that poverty, lack of education, lack of
yeah,
family support, right? I know I'm just naming a few of the substances,
yeah.
all right. The intersectionality that we have of these various things, right? So
Yeah,
you practice, I know, holistic law too, where you delve deep, the legal issue, you look at it as a symptom, right? And then you delve deep to try to treat
absolutely.
the underlying
Absolutely.
issues.
Yeah, our business card, I don't have one, but if I had it, I would show it to you. It says attorneys and counselors at law. And we have that there for a reason, because that's a big part of what we do is to counsel people, as you said, to treat them holistically. People come to us broken, and nothing happens in a vacuum. There's always a story. It's not somebody who just got caught driving drunk. It's somebody who's self-medicating because his mother just died a month ago and he doesn't have any coping skills, or somebody whose parents were addicts and that's how he grew up learning that kind of behavior. Or it's somebody who's accused of a sexual battery or sexual misconduct, and we realize that cycle of violence and victimization really is true. It is perpetuated. So one of the most rewarding parts of my job is to sit down and learn about somebody. That's the only way we can help them. One of the things we do with the prosecutor is humanize them because they don't know them. They're not allowed to talk to them. And your audience may or may not know a lot about criminal procedure, but the prosecutor can't ever call the defendant and say, hey, tell me about yourself. We're responsible for presenting that story. All they have is a case number and a police report, which always has the worst crap on it, right? So
Right.
our job is to find out all of those circumstances to explain, here's my human, and here's what happened to my human. And here's what we're doing to get this human back on track. We're getting him an evaluation, and we're getting him counseling. He's got a good family support network. We're getting him back in school. Whatever it is that we have to do, we do, so that we can present solutions to the prosecutor. I truly think that is one of the most rewarding things, because I've had clients come back to me years later and say, Peg, I graduated, or I just got married, or I got a job. That's what makes it worthwhile, all the stuff we do.
I'm coming up on 24 years of practice, Peg. I should have learned what you just told me by now, but thank goodness I'm doing this interview with you so that these tips, seriously, this is what you're saying is the very foundation. And I think would you say a lot of people can practice law, but really it's more of an art form and it does take years, right, to get there. And your journey, I wanted to ask you about that, your legal career. Um, can you tell us a little bit how you started out and how it's led you this path in life to where you're at today?
Yes, I've been sworn in since July 9th of 1999. So it's what, 22 years. In July will be 22 years.
So young, yeah.
It's a long time. It's 2 decades. But I wasn't practicing for all that time. My first job was at the state courthouse here as a staff attorney. Um, Again, when I graduated from law school with the master's, I thought, what do I want to do? My parents were here and I knew I needed to take care of them. So my locations were limited. I couldn't just apply wherever. So I was looking at one of the handouts that the law school would send with job openings, and I saw one at the Alachua County Courthouse. So I applied and got hired, but for the family division, which I knew nothing about, had no interest in it, but thought it's a job, Peg, just be grateful, take it. Well, about a week after, they called me and said, we hired another staff attorney who has family law experience. Would you be willing to switch to the criminal division? I thought, willing? I've been waiting for this. Thank you, God. This is exactly what I wanted. So when I started that job, I spent 6 years there as a staff attorney doing criminal, which means I did everything from the pro se inmates who were complaining about, my Kool-Aid wasn't sweet enough, to, I've been in here too long, to capital cases, to death penalty work. Did that for 6 years, and then went over with Judge Stephan Mickle in federal court in the Northern District. Did that for 3 years, and then in federal court, you rarely have, a judge usually has a career clerk, a permanent clerk, and then one rotating clerk called a term clerk. And he had a permanent clerk, so I was the rotating one. And he invited me to stay on a year past the customary 2, but then he said, you know, you've termed out, it's 3 years. And again, I thought, what am I going to do? I'm in Gainesville, I can't go anywhere. I had worked with Larry's judicial assistant at the courthouse, and she called me and said, hey, Larry needs somebody because there's a big case that's going on. They need more help. So I went and had lunch with him and his partner at the time, got on board with them. That was in 2007. We went into partnership in 2013, and then we've been rocking and rolling ever since.
Wow, thank you. There was, you know, and you had mentioned Judge Mickle, and just for our viewers today, we recently lost Judge Mickle in January. It was a huge loss, not just for our legal community, but I feel our local community as well. He was a wonderful leader, somebody that I would also consider a legal idol for me. And I always said we did these interviews too late. You know, I would have loved to have spoken with Judge Mickle, and he had so much wisdom. Is there any wisdom? Peg, you worked alongside him as a clerk, right? Is there any wisdom from Judge Mickle that you could share with us?
The 2 things that I remember were things that he used to say to us in chambers. We were called elbow clerks, so we would sit at his elbow by his side during trials and hearings, and then go in chambers afterward and discuss the cases. And after one lawyer had rushed into court with his tie askew and sweaty and complaining about whatever car problems, whatever, we went into chambers, and the judge said to me, you know what? You should never be on time to court. And he paused dramatically, and I thought, what does that mean? And he said, you should never be on time to court. Be early. Be at least 10 minutes early. And it was so simple, but it made sense. We always think about being on time for appointments, but his suggestion was be early. If you sit there for 10 minutes, great, at least you're there. And I've taken that to heart to make sure that anytime I have a hearing or anything, I'm there 10 minutes early, because you never know, especially in this era of Zoom hearings. Get your technology set up, because there have been times where, oh, my mic isn't working, oh, my thing isn't working, and now you've built some breathing room into your day. The other thing he said to me was, the best surprise is no surprise. And I laughed at him when he said that. I said, what do you mean, Judge? Surprises are great. Look, I surprised you. We took you to lunch the other day. What do you mean you don't like surprises? But what he meant was, the lawyers need to be prepared. It's not fair to him. It's not fair to the litigants. It's not fair to the jurors if lawyers are springing stuff on the court at the last minute. He was very sensitive to doing non-jury matters on non-jury time. So what that means was, we all had to be ready at 7 in the morning or 7:30. So their pretrial conference, we could get everything ironed out before the jury ever walked in. And then we would work through lunch while he sent the jury away, again, to iron out any wrinkles to make sure their afternoon was smooth. So from him, I learned a lot about being sensitive to other people's time and other people's needs, and being as prepared as I can be to make the job easier for everybody.
Thank you, Peg. Yeah, I think those are wonderful words of wisdom. Yeah. I don't know if I shared this with you. He was my judge for my app ad, you know, when we do our oral
I did
arguments.
not know that. I did not know.
Yes. He was my judge. And I think at that point he might have been on the first, was it first DCA? I think.
Yeah.
If I went back in time, right? Yeah,
That's
quite a few
great.
years, right? Yeah. But
Was he
I
nice to
remember.
you? Did he go easy on you?
Yes, he did. Well, he asked the critical questions, which I thought were great. You know, as always, because you're chomping at the bit. You've got all this knowledge. You want to let it out, right? You know, and we're all nervous. You know, we're all sweating and we're all nervous, of course, and, you know, holding our little briefs, you know, and things.
Your hand
But
shaking.
oh, I'm sure, knowing me, I'm shaking right now, Peg. You
See,
know,
do I make you nervous, Layne?
oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely, positively
Okay.
terrified,
All
you know,
right,
on
good.
it, right? But we're gonna, when we go off camera, we'll talk more about it, and I'm gonna have you, yeah. Remember how you were saying you're a counselor as well, right? You know,
I'll give you a special friend discount. It's okay. Cheap rate for you.
thank you. It won't be the $750, $800 an hour, right? Normal charge, right? Hey, you know, I just wanted to say, you know, Judge Mickle was a complete gentleman. You know, I don't mean anything gender biased by that, but he was very nice. He actually complimented me, and he said, you know, I was the first one that had come in with their tie, with their button done on their blazer. And
Interesting.
it was a pet peeve of his, that he did not want the blazer. He didn't want to be distracted. Like you said, he wanted everything formalized. And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I was just warned by the prior individual to button it up. Right. But that was a lesson for me that know your judge,
Yeah.
know their preferences, right? You know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
yeah, it exceedingly, he had an exceedingly huge heart. He did ask the critical questions, but in the nicest way possible, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a tremendous individual. Thank you for sharing that. Any organizations that you belong to or recommend for my students, Peg?
Ones that are appropriate for undergrads to be in, you mean? Two things. I'm assuming that a lot of them are involved in pre-legal, like Virgil Hawkins pre-legal, or any sort of before law school societies. I
Yeah,
think those
Pre-Legal
are
Honor Society, and there's the Phi Alpha Delta as well.
okay. Good.
Yeah, the two are bigger ones, yes.
Here's something you might consider is Inns of Court with Professor Tracy Reed at the law school. The Inns of Court, you probably know, came over from England. It's one of the traditions that our legal system carried over. There were 4 big Inns of Court in England, and now there's a different Inn of Court, couple chapters all around the country. We have 2. We have the James Adkins Inn of Court and the Jerry Bennett Inn of Court. And every semester, there's a limited number of pupils. We call them pupils who are admitted, somewhere between 10 and 14, I think. The benefit of joining that, well, actually, you know what? I say that though, those are law students. I may have just wasted 30 seconds of our time, but I'm going to finish my thought and we can go back and talk about it.
Yeah.
And maybe undergrads, I mean,
Well, no, this can, law students are free as well to watch this. So,
well, that's true. And, I think it might be neat for an undergrad to come in and at least be a guest. So let me finish that train of thought. And then
okay,
if I screw it
gotcha.
up, we
Okay,
can scratch it.
great.
Okay. We have 10 to 14 pupils from the law school who are admitted to the inn every year. And the benefit is, back before COVID, we were all sitting at tables and the students would be seated right next to lawyers and judges. So during the dinner portion, you could, hello, judge, and how are you? And talk to them and they talk to you. And every table is responsible for putting on a presentation. So the pupil gets to actually do real work with the lawyers and the judges to prepare for the presentation. So it's better than just networking. Networking sounds so callous, like I'm friends with you because I want something from you, but it helps to establish real relationships. I think undergrads might benefit from that too, because if they can hook up with a lawyer or a law student, we can bring them as a guest, because you can have a guest during any part of the year. And I think that would be valuable because it shows you, it teaches you a little bit about the law, because there's always a presentation, and it just gets you sitting next to lawyers and judges. They're humans, underneath the robe and the suit and the dress. So I think it's a nice way for them to learn to dress properly, act properly, know how to carry on a conversation. I think that would be pretty invaluable. But I like the pad, the baby pad. There's also a law school pad. That's why we call undergrad baby pad, at least when I was faculty advisor for pre-legal. But anything that gives them exposure to what law looks like is good. Also, when we get jury trials back up and running, they should go to the courthouse and sit, because proceedings are open to the public unless there's a reason to seal it, like in a child sex case or something. But if they're really thinking about a career in law, you got to get exposed to it. Just go sit and learn.
Wow. I tell you what, Peg, this is so good. I'm going to stop right now. We're going to do a part 1, and then we're going to continue for a part 2. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I'm just going to stop it because this is the easiest way that I know.